So, today's topic is going to be a fun one. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health. Yeah! As you can see, I am playing armchair psychologist today. Okay, I know that's not exactly what we would call a fun topic, but I can at least make it entertaining by tying it in with anime. I want to take a nice little examination of a dear new friend of mine. Her name is Komi, and if you haven't heard, she has a little trouble communicating. God, that's so corny.
I mean, I liked it.
For those of you who don't know about this anime yet, Komi Can't Communicate is an adaptation of a manga by Tomohito Oda. It follows high school student Hitohito Tadano in his journey to help the beautiful, yet painfully socially anxious Shoko Komi make 100 friends at school. Komi's anxiety is so bad that it has rendered her mute in front of her peers, and it makes it nearly impossible for her to take part in even the most basic of social situations. Komi Can't Communicate is certainly not anime's first foray into mental health. March Comes In Like a Lion paints an honest depiction of how mental illness makes it hard to take care of yourself as well as others. The film A Silent Voice shows us how both kindness and cruelty can go a long way for someone's psyche in their most formative years. Neon Genesis Evangelion, one of the most critically acclaimed anime out there, tackles the ways that trauma can take over our lives and affect our relationships with other people. Because nothing says, I need therapy more than the desire to revert back to primordial soup with the homies. These examples definitely lean on the more dramatic and tragic side of the anime spectrum, but hey, mental illness is not exactly a happy subject matter, so it's better to portray it how it is rather than make it into some quirky schmaltz with nothing really important to say. You know, I'm thinking Hallmark Christmas special. Komi, however, is a little different. The picture this anime paints of mental health is one that I find to be rather candid. When I say candid, I mean that it feels real in the sense that it's sad to watch Komi suffer so much with her anxiety, but it can also lead to some more lighthearted situations that feel more in line with my own experiences. Now, I am by no means a doctor or a master on the subject of mental health. As a daughter of a lawyer, I will tell you to not take everything I say as the full truth. However, I am someone who suffers from pretty bad social anxiety, so I can greatly empathize with Komi, and I can let you know in the show what feels realistic and accurate from my neurotic little perspective. So, Komi Can't Communicate classifies Komi's condition as a communication disorder. This is a pretty general term, so to be more specific, I would say what she has is an extreme case of social anxiety. Like the name of the anime suggests, she can't talk to people, she has trouble looking anyone in the eye without making those big ooh cat eyes, and she doesn't know how to express her feelings without letting absolutely everything out on a notepad. Yep, that to me sounds all too familiar. Her being almost completely nonverbal in the beginning may feel a bit extreme, as she can't even answer a question in class, but I'm positive that there are people out there who find it impossible to answer a teacher's question without wanting to puke their guts out. I even found a post on the Komi-San subreddit discussing how she may have a case of a less common but very real version of anxiety known as selective mutism. What I find to be most relatable about Komi's depiction of communication disorders are the patterns of behavior that she exhibits in front of Tadano and the others. In the first episode, when Komi first confides in Tadano about her condition, she runs to the blackboard like a skittish little cat and writes down what I like to call her thought loops. It's that never-ending stream of what-ifs and intrusive thoughts that plague your mind and kind of render you mentally immobile. What if I trip and fall in front of my classmates? What if they think I dress too weird? What if I open up my mouth and they think my voice is annoying? What if my voice is annoying? What if the world ends right now? Sounds pretty wild from somebody else's perspective, right? These loops are, however, very real patterns of thought that Komi and I both go through in any given social situation. Writing that previous paragraph kind of put me into a thought loop again. So, woo! This video is gonna make me very dizzy. It's the reason why I sometimes get anxious going to cons and even meeting fans. I'm kind of worried sometimes that you'll meet me and be disappointed because I'm actually a lot more shy and introverted than these videos suggest. Anime NYC, although really fun, was actually pretty tough for me, especially if you saw me in that crowd. It was really nice meeting you guys though, don't take it like that. Oh man, I'm really opening up here. I hope people like this. These wild thoughts grow even more relatable in the later episodes when Komi begins to blame herself and even express some self-hatred for all sorts of things that are out of her control, going as far as to push Tadano away so as to not get either of them hurt. That self-blame game is such a big part of anxiety, and it can really warp your own self-perception. So it's sometimes good to have a friend like Tadano to help pull you out and make you realize that, like, things aren't always your fault and people don't hate you as much as you think. I'm hoping that as more episodes of Komi come out, she can learn to eventually tackle these anxious thoughts. If she can learn that at the end of the day, her worries are really nothing more than just thoughts, and use that to grow as a character, then I'll be really impressed. Manga readers, no spoiling.
She dies.
No! She dies from being too thick. Another thing the show does well is depicting multiple characters with social anxiety. Besides Komi, there's also Himiko Agari, who gets extremely nervous when being stared at and asked to do tasks that involve public speaking. Now that's what I like to call relatable, fellow kids. Unlike Komi though, Agari is still able to talk to other people and is capable of making friends, but she still takes great value in her alone time and gets easily flustered when confronted with something that's out of her comfort zone. This sounds more in line with people who suffer from a more generalized anxiety disorder or people who are just painfully introverted. I love the scene where Agari and Komi are too afraid to talk to each other, and so they both get the wrong idea about how the other person feels, when in reality, Komi just wants to ask to be her friend because they both have anxiety problems. It feels like such a realistic situation because anxiety has a way of tricking your brain into thinking that every stare and every remark is that person saying that they want nothing to do with you, when in reality, they probably want to be your friend. Hopefully those friends don't turn out to be massive masochists that want you to treat them like dogs, but you get the point. This leads me to my next point. Komi Can't Communicate does a wonderful job of not only depicting the heartbreaking side of anxiety disorders, but also the more lighthearted side. I'm not gonna lie, having a communication disorder can feel extremely crippling at times, but there are also moments where I can't help but look in the mirror and kind of laugh at myself out of pity because of the situations I've gotten myself into. All of the awkward conversations, all of the unrealistic thoughts, the idea that going to a party makes me feel like I'm being chased by a tiger. It's silly! Maybe I'm just someone who copes with dark humor, but sometimes I just can't help but laugh. Komi loves to capture that silliness with its unique oddball characters and situational comedy. Although Komi can't make friends, everyone at the school still worships her because they think her silence is just her being a cool, mysterious beauty of high class, rather than the anxious mess that she actually is. Komi herself is often compared to a cat because she's cute, skittish, and everyone seems to have the wrong idea about her. Who remembers the scene where Komi tries to order a frappuccino and gets too scared to tell the barista that he got her order wrong? Or the scenes where people think Komi is a crazy yandere because of her 1,000-yard stare? Although embellished for the sake of, well, you know, anime humor, these all still feel like pretty realistic situations for someone who suffers from anxiety. The tone of this anime also shows something that's very important for people to know about mental health. It's that there are people out there like Komi who suffer not because of any one particular event, but because their brains are just kind of wired that way. Komi's had her communication disorder since childhood, never being able to make friends because that's just how her brain works. In anime, or really any other media depicting mental health problems, it's almost always caused by some sort of tragedy or traumatic childhood event. And look, I get it, because trauma is something that is extremely common for people who suffer from mental illness. It also is a better storytelling device, as it better explains why characters act a certain way and why they have certain motivations. This, however, can be kind of limiting to the stories about mental health that we want to tell. Trauma is so serious that it kind of sets the tone of the story to be so. There's not much room for laughter because it's, well, inappropriate and fucking weird to laugh at someone's trauma. If you left the theater for a silent voice laughing rather than crying, well, I don't know if I ever want to approach you in person ever. It also makes it harder to show different perspectives. Mental health problems don't only arise from trauma. Some people suffer because it's genetic, and others suffer because of the intense pressure that society places on them. Japanese high school students in particular deal with all sorts of internal conflicts because of the intense pressure on them to get good grades. Brains work in such mysterious ways that really anything could be the cause for a mental shutdown. Although I suppose when you think about it, societal pressure is kind of a form of trauma within itself, and a genetic case can come from a case of intergenerational trauma, which when you really makes sense when you think about it, if I'm stuck in a thought loop again. Well, I love that Komi takes this approach instead. We still empathize deeply with Komi. Our hearts still break for her when she cries and gets frustrated, and we can't help but shed a tear of joy for her when she overcomes an obstacle. However, we also get to see a goofier side of it all because we know that she has the power to change and better cope with her problems. And I'm not saying that anxiety disorder should be depicted on screen as something that's quirky or a goofy Hallmark special on why you should be nice to people on Christmas. Yes, I am still on the Hallmark specials. I think they should rather just show them as something that's, well, honest. Yeah, anxiety is something that takes a great toll on people's lives, but it's also something that you can learn to live with and even sometimes, dare I say, find some laughter in. If I could compare Komi to anything else, I would say that it's more like a very anime, less intelligent, high school version of BoJack Horseman. Yeah, that's gonna make some heads turn. Story-wise, no similarities at all. I'm saying this because BoJack manages to find that perfect balance between hilarity and heartbreak, just like Komi. Sometimes there will be scenes where everyone is laughing and playing together, threatening to carve out a piece of gravel for daring to scrape Komi's knee. Other times, there will be long moments of painful silence as Komi sits alone at the pool, listening to others laugh while she's all by herself, wondering if her simply existing is making others unhappy. Also, like BoJack, not only Komi, but every other character as well is suffering from some form of communication problem that they slowly learn how to cope with. Not every character gets it right, and sometimes it leads to some very wacky situations, but what's important is that they're all learning and growing. I'm hoping that also, like BoJack, the characters will start to become a lot more three-dimensional so I can grow more attached to them and get in my feels when they find their happiness, finally. Oh, Diane. Komi Can't Communicate is proving itself to be one great anime about mental health. I adore the candid message that it tells its viewers. Just because they have trouble making friends, it doesn't mean that they don't want to. Discussing mental health can be difficult, especially in a medium that is meant to be entertaining first and educational second. It is, however, great to have an anime out there that talks very openly about mental health and shows both the bad and the good. I cannot wait to see how this series wraps up, and I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the anime in the comments below. Does Komi's experience feel relatable to you at all? What are some other anime that you enjoy that also successfully depict mental health? Please, let's keep this conversation going. And to all those watching who also have anxiety or are just really suffering from any other battles happening in your head, just know that you are never fighting this battle alone. There are so many ways to reach out to help and so many others who can share your experiences. If you ever see me at a convention and you're feeling a little too anxious to say hello, just know that I'm probably in the same boat, but it's okay, because we can get through this together. I am LovelyDorrie, and thank you so much for watching Beyond the Bot. See you at the next therapy sesh. Stay healthy, guys. Hello everybody. Thank you so much for watching that very special episode of Beyond the Bot. Apologize if I look and sound a little subdued and delirious. I received my booster shot yesterday, and the side effects today are making me feel quite poopy. But I'm still very excited you guys enjoyed that video. It is one that was very near and dear to my heart. For anybody who's been following me for a while who may remembers when I used to stream, I actually had to stop doing that because of my social anxiety. Maybe one day I'll get back to it, but I really hope that this video is able to connect with a lot of you and show you that you're not so alone in this situation. Big thank you, as usual, to our patrons, especially our high rollers, Matthew Hennis, Ashuga Joe, Andrew M, Drew Warrenis, and Eric Tortorapatu. Thank you so much. I promise I will stop talking in this really awful accent. Again, delirious. As for our question, this comes from Victor Sanchez over on our Patreon, and his question is, are there any anime that you loved back in the day but that have aged poorly for you, or on the flip side, that you didn't like when you were younger but are much better on a more recent rewatch? I guess off the top of my head I loved Digimon a lot as a kid, but then I remember after we watched the Digimon movie for the Beyond the Bot cast, it kind of just made me realize how, that's insane that was. And I wouldn't say it aged poorly, but it certainly, I have a much different perspective now as an adult. I'll say that. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Get your boosters, take care of yourself, And don't push yourself to the limit today like I am. Bye!